Man, mobility man, as it seems. Mate,
As it seems.
I love what you're doing.
Thank
You're
you.
getting people to think about things a little bit more. You're planting the seed. And I think that's what's needed. You know what I mean? Just like, hey, let's all just be pretty decent human beings. Let's help each other out, and let's do this thing called fitness.
Yeah, exactly. And the people don't like care, there's different brackets of things because there's people that aren't interested in exercise or fitness at all, but they still need to work on flexibility and stretch and have some baseline level of strength. You can't just ignore completely. And then there's your athletes as well, obviously, that
Mhm.
just want to push themselves all the time. And it's like you need to be able to take a back seat every now and again and work on your mobility, work on your strength and your flexibility so that you can keep pushing yourself as well. So it's just this middle ground. I'm always after like what's non-negotiable, what can you not get away with at all? And that's the stuff that we're really trying to promote and be like, look, this is super important. Like you can't skip this. You don't have to be motivated at all to do it, but you just can't skip it because it's too important. Because if you skip this stuff for enough years, you'll just start running into that injury cycle or just feeling awful as well. Like that stage that I got to myself.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I can definitely empathize with that. Like, if I'm just not looking after myself and giving myself some TLC, you just feel like shit. You just walk
Yeah.
through life and you're like, oh, this is difficult, right? And if you, on the other side, if you're looking after yourself a little bit more, if I'm stretching or making sure I'm spending a little bit more time in warm ups and I'm not just kicking seven bells of crap out myself, like I'm just walking around, I'm like, you know what? I actually feel pretty good.
Yep. And that's the way you want to be. You don't want to be waking up first thing in the morning and taking 20 minutes to be able to stand up straight, you know? You should be
Yeah.
springing out of bed and ready to go. And that takes effort. It does. You're trying to train yourself out of habits that you can develop. And over time, if you're not working on those things, you can just develop the habit of being a stiff person, of being someone that, has to crawl out of bed. It's all, everything is just training. So you can train your body to feel the way you want it to feel. It just takes that little bit of input from you.
What got you started on this journey, man?
For me, so I had no sporting background whatsoever. Like I would have deliberately not brought my gym gear to school to get out of doing like physical education in school. I was just like, no, I had no interest in it. And then when I even got to being a teenager, all I wanted to do was drink and smoke, and that was just me. It was like, go to the gym. Like, yeah, I would have laughed at you. It just was not for me. And then I just started putting on a ton of weight in the mid 20s, and I had a job where I just had to sit all day and just do nothing. And like, I wouldn't even walk the length of myself. And then just all of a sudden, like all my friends were just poking fun at me and stuff. And just, they were in a nice way. In Northern Ireland, you poke fun at people if you're trying to help them out and actually
Hmm.
encourage them. So they were calling me, funny names and things they got there. So I was like, right, fine, I'll go to the gym then. And I just sort of decided because it was sort of getting into UFC at the time, and I sort of went, I'm going to give martial arts a go. And I don't know why, because it really wasn't, I had no real like social skills and stuff. I was quite an anxious person, so I was like, I'm gonna go and try martial arts. So it was very out of the normal for me. Like my wife had to hold my hand the first time we walked into the gym. So it was like, this is the coach and stuff. So I just flipped the switch and started training 6 days a week and like for hours and hours and hours until I got myself through all the beginner stuff. And then I was in the intermediate classes. So then I would show up for the beginner classes, do them for 2 hours, and then do the sparring classes for 2 hours afterwards. So I, went from someone who had no interest in doing anything to training 4 hours every night. Um, and then I started to realize how bad my fitness was as well. So started doing the fitness classes as well. And then I was like gotten into weightlifting and CrossFit as well. And started just doing absolutely everything. Like you could not keep me out of the gym. I woke up, went to the gym, came home, went to work, came back to the gym in the evening. That was just me. Like I didn't see my wife for a couple of years because I was just living in the gym. And then I just started getting broke. Like I hurt my knee, I hurt my shoulder, I hurt my back, my knee hurt again, and then my shoulder hurt again. I kept tweaking my neck, and I really struggled to do a lot of the movements that some of the other people didn't seem to struggle with at all. So if anyone does ground grappling or BJJ, like trying to hold a triangle choke on someone, I just did not physically have the hip flexibility to be able to do it, and that was really frustrating me. And then I started trying to, I delved into the world of mobility a little bit and started coming across all the stuff that you see with bands or like just holding passive stretches and foam rolling and stuff. And I was working like at that, and I was the sort of person that was like, if you told me to do something, I would go into the corner and do it for an hour, no questions asked, and that was just the stuff that I was coming across at the time. Um, and yeah, I just started getting even more injuries because I wasn't working on stability. I wasn't working on the stuff that we really teach about of like lengthen a muscle and then strengthen that muscle in the range as well. I was
Mhm.
just doing basically all of the relax everything as much as you can and just force a range of motion with absolutely no control in it. So then I started causing more injuries to myself, thinking I was doing a good thing. And then I started thinking that the stuff I was doing was helping. So I started doing it even more. So like I just started to make tons of mistakes. And I got to a point where I was ended up going to the gym and sitting on the bench and just watching the classes because I was in so much pain or I couldn't move. I couldn't lift my arm, couldn't move my shoulder at all. I walked for a limp for about a year, had to get a bit of meniscus taken out of my knee, which isn't a major like surgery at all. It's a very, invasive surgery. Everybody, like loads of people have it and it doesn't cause them any bother. They're back to training again, having a great time. But after my surgery, I was still in pain. My knee still hurt. My other knee started to hurt and I was just falling to bits and I was like, what is going on here? And then I got a wee run as you do, like a wee 6 month period where everything felt kind of okay, as long as I foam rolled for like 2 hours a day. I was kind of being able to get through. And then I was just doing a back squat and it hurt my back multiple times. And then on this time, I just felt a doot, 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 like that. That's how it felt in my
Eesh.
back as it was coming back up. And I was like, oh, tingling my back again. So I thought I'll phone the physio. Um, go back to him. But the next morning, like I couldn't put my left leg on the ground. Like I couldn't stand up at all. I couldn't, like I had to, my wife had to drive me to the physio with me lying down in the back seat because I couldn't sit upright. And whenever I
Mm.
went into my physio, he was like, I'm not touching you, dude. You've done something bad here. You need to go to hospital. So I went to hospital and then I went in that rigmarole that you went through that
Am I right?
you get given painkillers and then you get told to go to your GP and they just sort of him in hand, and you get referred to a specialist. And then I then after that started to go, right, what am I doing wrong here? And then started to realize that the strength was what I was missing. My balance was awful on one side. My hip flexibility was different side to side. And then I started to learn about how important it is to rotate your hips and stuff. Like I wasn't told any of this stuff. I'd been spending thousands on different treatments and things. And I started to realize all these things. Like, why can normal or why can other people do this stuff? And I can't seem to acquire this position at all, like at all, even a wee bit. So I started working on all that, and my flexibility really started to increase and my pain started to go away. And I was like, all right, okay, right, we're on to something here. And like, if I didn't move as soon as I got up in the morning, like I was having to take 6 a.m. classes when I was coaching at the time in the gym. If I didn't get up at 5 and do 30 minutes of mobility work before anything else, I wouldn't have been able to go and coach that class. So that was sort of what led me to going, all right, okay, so stretching first thing in the morning is extremely beneficial. Stretch when you're stiffest, it's the best time. And then I made myself completely pain free and I started to like hit PRs and all of my lifts. I felt great. I started doing all the CrossFit workouts, all the advanced ones, and I was doing them back to back just for fun. I felt amazing. After every gym session, it was like my muscles felt like they were actually working. I wasn't walking out with joint pain, and I just felt incredible. And then it took about that period of a year to go through that, and I had a bunch of setbacks and stuff as well, which is totally normal, which people don't understand. And then I finally got the letter right to get my MRI scan, and it was like, well, I've waited this long, so I went and got it. And when I got the report for it, so I got the scan when I was completely pain free. Like I think I deadlifted 200 kilos on the Monday or something, and then I went to the guy to talk about the results of it, and he told me that I had this L4 L5 protrusion and an L4 or L5S1 extrusion, and a nerve impingement, and that I was going to have to think about a career change and do all the stuff. And I was standing there going, "Are you sure you've got the right MRI here? Something, I'm completely fine. Like I am smashing it in the gym. Like I'm beating everybody at everything." And it just led me to finally or not finally realize, but it just gave me this realization point of like structural injury and pain, there isn't a correlation. And then when I started to research into studies and things, I started to see the same thing come up again and again and again and again. People having all kinds of disc injuries, all kinds of even shoulder injuries, and no pain associated with it whatsoever if they moved well and if they had good habits and good body awareness. Whereas what you would notice with someone that's just been told that, oh, you need to be careful, you've got degeneration, you're getting on a bit, you need to, and they have that belief built up. They're the people with more pain because they believe that, they need to be careful. So they're walking around every day going, oh, and I need to make sure I don't do this and don't do that. And, they're just living in fear essentially, which makes pain worse. So it's what led me to go, right, okay, focus on your movement, focus on improving what you can and see where you go from there rather than going, oh, I've this thing, I better not do anything, because it's the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you can do with any past injury is compound a lack of
Mhm.
flexibility and a lack of stability on it and allow weakness to set in. That's just a recipe for disaster. So it's so important to get people moving, and it's just figuring out where to start's the hardest thing.
So where would you start someone?
It depends on their background. So, with a lot of the people that we've worked with over the years, it's really what they have. So it's much easier to take someone, so say just in terms of like back injury rehab, it's much easier to take someone with an extensive training background that already knows how to lift and already knows how to, feel their hamstrings and glutes and all that stuff. It's much easier to take someone through rehab that way. For someone that doesn't have that, it's like it's not a bad thing. It's just like, okay, this is going to take a bit longer because now you're struggling with certain things, you're experiencing pain at the moment, but we need to teach you this stuff as well at the same time, which is more of a challenge. It's not impossible, it's just you need to understand. It's like as you learn these things and as you learn what proper muscle tension feels like, you could go through, you might perceive that muscle, good muscle tension for strength as a muscle tightening up, and you might think, oh, my injury's coming back, or I'm causing more damage. It's one of the worst things they ever hear. I'm causing more damage. It's like, you're not going to cause more damage through moving your body, okay? Body weight movements, unless you load up a barbell with a ton of weight and start jumping sideways up and down, you're not going to cause more damage to something that you've got going on. It's just about moving things regularly in such an easy way. Like in some cases, you just need to start with like lifting your leg up, putting it on a chair, and just rocking yourself back and forward. Not even with any weight really in the leg, just rocking back and forward, getting your knee opened up fully, and just getting the extension of the back leg up and just going into deep flexion in the front leg. That can be enough. Hips, you've got to get moving your hips. Everybody does. If you've a cranky lower back or cranky knees, you got to get moving your hips because they are the thing that's responsible for so much, and you need to move them in all the ways they can move. You can't just go after one specific muscle, which is something that you'll probably notice in a lot of our content. I'm always attacking um, glute med exercises, which have their place, but there's so if you like Google the muscles of the hip, there's a lot more than a glute med there, and you need to think about all of the directions it can move in and all of the things it can do, because if you start trying to blame one muscle, which may be part of the cause, you won't get anywhere fast. And at the end of the day, you could be the clamshell champion, which is a very good glute med exercise. You'll feel your glutes if you're doing clamshells. But if your balance sucks, if you can't stand on one leg for a certain period of time, you're not going to get anywhere.
I completely agree, man. The amount of times you see someone come in, either get like an LAX ball in there or just literally just spend 35, 40 minutes on this clamshell. I'm like, dude, is it getting any better? I was like, oh, not really. I was like, how long you been doing it? 3 months. I was like, maybe try something else. I'm
Yeah,
not the expert in this room, but maybe try something
yeah,
else.
yeah.
Maybe that's
I'm
not the major issue.
I am always after the things that you suck at. I will, whenever I test someone, I'll be like, right, can you do this? Yep, great. Okay, fine, right. Throw that out the window. Don't need that. Can you do this? Yep, can do that. Fine, right, great. Throw it out the window. Can you do this? Can't even do it a wee bit. Ah, okay, right. We
Mm-hmm.
found something we can work on then. And they don't like it because they're like, I really struggle to do this. And that's the thing that you need. You don't need the things you're already good at. You need to figure out the things that should be simple, the likes of a Copenhagen plank, which is whenever you're holding yourself up with the inside of your legs, so your adductor muscles are holding you up to the Copenhagen plank. A lot of people really struggle to do that exercise, but they could do glute med exercises, glute bridges, hip thrusts all day long. You could say do 100 of those. They'd be like, okay, yeah, you'd feel your glutes, but they don't struggle to do it at all. But you say to them, can you hold a Copenhagen plank? And they can barely manage 10 seconds and they're shaking like anything. And it's like, okay, maybe we have a bit of, instability going on here at your overall hip structure, so you should be able to move your hips up, down, left, right, round, round, any way, and not have a weakness there. Like if I grab someone's leg whenever they're lying down on the floor and try and pull it out of position in any direction, they should be able to resist me doing that, and that's the way you want to think about your hips. Think about your muscles, because you're not just muscles don't just go forwards and backwards. They go, they overlap. They do all these different things. So if you're not challenging all of the multiple directions, then that's your area for weakness.
Yeah, for sure. It's building that strong foundation, right? And at the
Mm-hmm.
end of the day, if you're trying to load up a heavy back squat, powerlifting, weightlifting, CrossFit, or anything, even just an everyday sport, right?
Yeah.
Like
And
you,
that's the big thing there, like what you said there, like everyone always says, focus on the basics. And my question to people is always like, what are the basics? So if I ask someone what's the basics, what are they going to come back with?
probably SPD.
They're going to probably go for a squat bench deadlift. They're
Yeah.
going to say, that's all it is. But it's like, no, no, no. The basics are proper joint movement. So can you extend properly through your thoracic spine? Can you rotate your shoulders? Can you rotate your hips? How is your, hamstring awareness? How is your glute activation? Can you move your hips through flexion, extension, internal rotation, external rotation? Do you have good abduction strength, good adductor strength? And can you balance as well? So those are the things that you want to be thinking about, the basics of how the body's supposed to work. Because if you have a body that works the way a body's supposed to work, then you're going to get away with a lot more stuff. You're going to be allowed to run. You're going to be allowed to do CrossFit. You're going to be allowed to do rugby or whatever sport that you enjoy doing, because your joints aren't compromised all of the time. So you're not, banging yourself into the ground. So always think about proper joint movement. So that's what your mobility work should be focused on. Shouldn't be just one muscle that you're having a problem with or one area you're having a problem with. It should be making all your bits work the way they're supposed to.
Mm. Earning the right, eh? Like I say it all the time in the gym, like people loading up a back squat, for example. It's like, no. You got to earn the right to get that weight. If you can't air squat, if you can't do a simple body weight squat, like I'm not giving you a barbell. Like, no. You got to
Yeah.
earn that right to be able to touch that steel. Like, unfortunately, that's the case. It's
Yeah.
not, oh no, I need to feel this weight to get in the position. I was like, that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah. If you're doing that, you're using the weight to brace. You're using the weight to make you do something, whereas you should be bracing to lift the weight. So that's the complete difference there.
Mm,
And like people, beginners starting the gym as well, right? I've just started the gym. What do you do? 5x5. It's like, no, spend a year learning how to squat first and
mm,
then do whatever program you want. But own your squat first and then start to strengthen it. Then you can start to, you know, progressively load things. Whereas you should at the start be playing with tempo, be playing with pauses, and trying to improve your position, make sure that you really understand what the squat is supposed to do as well. You can't, just do it willy-nilly, especially if you want to take it seriously. Like if you want to hit big numbers in your squat, you need to take your squat, your initial squat, how you squat seriously so that you are able to cope with the program.
mm. So if someone came in a complete newbie, right, never done anything in their life, where would you start them off? What basic function would you get them to quote unquote perfect?
It would be all of the stuff that's essentially in the simplistic mobility method. So starting to see, can they rotate their hips properly? Seeing, can they rotate their shoulders properly? Can they achieve a good overhead position properly? And then starting them on the likes of lunges. So even before I would get someone to squat, I would start them on a lunge. I would start them on deep split squats. Now, not a Bulgarian split squat, deep split squats that you're actually challenging the ankle mobility properly. And improving their hip extension. So just checking all of the joint function and seeing that there's no big differences left or right. Everyone has a slightly stronger side or a slightly tighter side and all that stuff. It's totally normal. But as long as you're talking like a smidge, just a wee bit at your end ranges, that's totally fine, because not a lot of training exercises really do go to your full end ranges. Um, so it's really about making sure the joints work properly and making sure that they have good balance and good body awareness. And like a lot of this stuff as well can come down to good hand-eye coordination. Sometimes it's like, here, can you catch this ball for me? And throw a ball at them and see have they got even hand-eye coordination. Some of those things are so incredible to think about. And like I have a lot of friends that are really into the neurology side of things, and like all they do is eye exercises. I'm never going to go that far with it, but it's really, really interesting to see
Mm,
again the correlation with pain and people's hand-eye coordination, just how their body awareness is and like how much pain they experience. There's so many things on that, which is pretty
mm,
cool as well. So that's why I'm always, you'll see me joking around and doing stuff with people as well. It like seems like I'm just being a goofball, but a lot of it's like, here, can you just react if you need to, because
yeah.
that's a pretty important thing. Can you dissociate your neck from your body? Can you do an exercise and be able to look left and right? That's why so many people have neck tension, and it's because they tense up their neck when they're doing exercises, or they tense up their, when they're bracing, the neck goes as well. It's like, no, your neck should be chilled out, and you need to be able to create tension where you need it, and
Mm,
other places that aren't needing to be tense are relaxed. So if you ever see a slowed down video of a sprinter, they seem to be really relaxed at the same time as running. There's just no tension where there doesn't need to be tension, and it's something that doesn't come naturally to you. And it's something I realized because of my background, because until my mid-20s, I did nothing. I had zero body awareness whatsoever. So I had to learn that from scratch. There was people starting at the same time as me that were just picking up stuff faster than what I was, because they really enjoyed football at school, or I just had a better training background than me. So it took me a longer time to acquire those initial skills, which were just hand-eye coordination.
mm.
Um, So yeah, it's those basic things going through that, and then you can start to load those things up as well. So like I really like the single leg deadlift for teaching hamstring awareness and just ankle stability, knee stability, hip stability. It's a really really good exercise. But when you've got the hang of that, start to load it up, grab a couple of dumbbells or grab a kettlebell, and you can even take it to the barbell as well. It's one that I played with quite a bit, so I took it up to doing 100 odd kilos for reps for single leg deadlifts, which is great fun.
Would you support with your back leg, or would you literally be on one leg?
Literally on one leg. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
something
you
that
should want to have that control. It's like, can you feel your hamstring? Yeah. It's like, if anyone asks you, do you understand how to hinge properly from the hip? Like, do you really know how to deadlift? Now, you don't have to enjoy deadlifts. You don't have to enjoy deadlifting heavy, but do you understand how to hinge? Do you understand how to use your hips over
mm,
your spine? That's
mm.
such an important skill to learn.
Oh yeah, for sure. You see it on a GHD, right? When you say a hip or a back extension, people don't know the
Hmm.
difference. When
Yeah.
you're trying to get them to do the back extension, like they just cannot do it. They can't
Hmm.
control through that spine. You're like, this is an issue, guys. Like,
Yeah.
why are we deadlifting? Right?
Yeah.
Why are we
And
loading this motherfucker up if we
yeah.
literally can't move?
And the real sucker thing is, like, if you're not a coach and really interested in that stuff, someone can look like their back's perfectly straight, and what they're actually doing is extending their low back whenever they're
Mm,
deadlifting. So they're actually going into overextension. So whenever
hmm
they're finishing the deadlift, they're finishing in a hyperextended position, and it looks fine. It just looks like they've got a bit of lumbar lordosis. But to them, you've said to them, keep your back straight, and they've maybe misinterpreted as arch my back. I need to I
hmm
need to I need to fight my back rounding by arching my back more, and that just causes this hypertension with people. So there's so many little nuances, and a lot of stuff doesn't come out as a problem until they get to that past 85% range in their lifts, and then all of a sudden everything just breaks down, and they're like, I don't know why I'm stuck at this weight, and it's like you're doing every other lift just incorrectly, and you're just not getting the right thing from it.
Yeah.
So there's so many little subtle things as well, because I've done courses and courses and courses. And every time I went, I've always picked up something, even if it's just a new coaching cue or just a different way to explain things. Still, over 10 years, I'm still going, awesome. I'm still learning stuff. So there's a lot more to this whole movement stuff than people
Mhm.
really give it credit for. And the issue is that weights go up regardless. And it just takes, someone can get away with absolute nightmare lifts for 2, 3 years. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what's happening. I'm being really unlucky lately. And it's like, no, it's been the 2, 3 years that you've been doing beforehand. And it's just all caught up to you now. So it's so important for people to have coaches and, just have, someone to assess your form and see what's going on. And, if you keep running into a problem, if you run into a problem 3 times, you've got to sort of, swallow the pill and be like, right, I've missed something here. I need help to get over this because, what happens if it happens a fourth and fifth time?
Yeah, the injury gets more and more severe, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's our job as coaches, right? It's learning where to look. Most of
Yeah.
the time we kind of look on this macro view, and you can get away with that with a beginner, right? Because usually there's multiple things that are wrong, but you're like, if I'm trying to look at everything, I'm actually seeing nothing, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh well, there's so much going on. Like, Alex, what happened? I was like, somebody moved.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of it. And you're like, oh, okay, great. Like, was it good or bad? I'm like, and I'm gonna give the whole good job. And that's like kind of it, right? I'm gonna move on to
Yeah.
the next person. It's like, no, bitch, like look where you're looking. It's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna look at the hip, or I'm gonna look at the spine, I'm gonna look at the shoulder, and then just like actually kind of zone in and triage, right? And that's where I see where a lot of people kind of fall by the wayside in terms of coaching. And I did it early years, right? Of just like, I'm trying to see everything. I was like, you're not going to see everything, mate. You're not Superman, right?
Yeah.
Let's just try and focus on the basic, play chess, not checkers, right?
Yeah.
And then go forward.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You can always ask them to do another rep. So you can,
Yeah.
even if you are using a full body exercise, you can be like, okay, tempo, let's go nice and slow. Let's see what's going on. So you can just focus on what the knees are doing. And then, okay, right, one more for me. Just look at what the ankles are doing. One more
Mm-hmm.
for me. Just see what the back's doing. One more for me. See what the upper back's doing. So it is breaking it down into that and not being like, there's a whole person, because we're just, like we're not cars, but we are cars at the same time. Your body learns, and you can't just take a part out and put a new part in and it's fixed. You need to actually teach the part when it comes to the
Mm-hmm.
body. But at the end of the day, all of those parts have a certain way that they're able to work. So you can pick that out quite easily over time just through practice. Your coaching eye improves, and you just get better at spotting those more subtle things. Um, or even just explaining something in a better way. Because sometimes you can have someone that's working with a coach, and their coach is going blue in the face saying, "You need to fix this thing," and they could ask you about it, and you could say the exact same thing that their coach said, because you maybe said it slower, or that this person has you built up in their head that they think that you're this awesome, amazing, coach. They just go, "Oh yeah, don't worry my back, okay," and their other coach is going, "Ah," that's what I've been saying to you for however long. But it's just some people just gel to other people in ways that they
Mm.
explain things. It's funny. People are amazing. So
Yeah, they really are this weird organic thing, or we really are this weird organic thing, right? And we also need to understand like our delivery and the words that we use, and we see it all the time, and we've probably done it as well. I know I have. Of just like I'm trying to explain someone how to squat, and it takes me fucking 5 minutes, and I'm still talking. You're just like, no, 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 they've forgotten who you are, dude. Just tell
yeah,
them like two things. Say less. They
yeah,
pay you to move, so just get them moving, and then
yeah.
work from there.
And
Yeah,
that's my
it's
my my favorite people that I've learned from over the years. They're like in their late 50s and their 60s coaches, and they say so little. They
yeah.
just, they barely say a word, and people just pick things up perfectly. And a lot of it's just like letting the person figure it out themselves, because
Mhm.
it's one of the best learning tools, letting someone figure it out themselves and just going, "You sure about that?" And then they'll, figure things out. So
I completely agree with that statement. I really like playing around with that. Like, you kind of have a different, you identify something, you have a different couple of ways you could attack it. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to play around with this one. And it's just kind of giving them a little bit more space and time. And you're like, try it, see what
yeah,
happens.
give
And
it a
like,
go.
how did it feel? Ask first rather than tell them. I was like, that was great. That was shit. It was like, no, no. How did it feel? You tell me, because
Mhm.
I'm not getting that internal feedback. You are. Yeah, I love it. I love coaching weightlifting. Like it's quite complicated, but at the same time, you'll say jump. They'll be like, "Is that it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want you to
Yeah.
jump." And then guess what? What? I want you to punch. That's it. He's like,
Yep.
it's supposed to be this really. I was like, yeah, it kind of is complicated, but also it's really simplistic. Jump and punch.
Yeah. Oh, when you start breaking down the 1, 2, 3 pull and stuff like that there, that's when you start seeing the weirdest stuff. People doing the
First,
Michael
second,
Jackson.
third pull, the triple extension. It's just like, no, no, guys, you don't need a knot. It's like, oh, but no, you don't need a knot. We're still snatching a PVC pipe. Okay, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but if you want to lecture, we can sit down later on and we can talk about it. But right now, you're here to move. Don't need a
Yeah.
knot. Jump and punch. That's it. So, alternatively, how would you get someone who is deep into a sport, right? Whether that's a strength sport, whether that is a conventional quote unquote sport, football, rugby, and netball, all that type of nonsense. How would you get them to slow down and focus on this stuff? Because that's a different kettle of fish, right?
Mhm. It's stressing the importance to them of it, of like, look, do you want to be playing for the rest of the season, or do you want to end up sitting on the bench? That's what you need to think about, your longevity as an athlete as well, and getting them to do some of the stuff at home. A lot of mobility stuff, just do it at home, so that when you go to the gym, when you go to your training sessions, that you can give it your all. So if you really want to take your sport seriously, you should be maximizing your recovery as much as you can, and a part of that is improving your movement, improving how you feel. So if you're not taking the time to work on your mobility after your sessions, it's like, what do you expect is going to happen whenever you go back into your next session? You're going to feel stiff and sore. You're going to have to then warm up for longer. It's just going to make you're not going to be as good an athlete as you could be. When you look at the best in the world, how seriously they take stuff. Like, they'll be doing stuff in the morning. They'll have physio appointments pretty much every day. They're doing all these things, and especially if you're an athlete that's just more of an enthusiast, and you have a full-time job to keep down as well, a ton of stress, maybe kids and stuff too. You need every advantage that you can get. So for me, teaching someone how to relax themselves while moving is a really, really beneficial thing. So like, I don't meditate at all, but like, I can really now just switch off as I'm working on mobility and just really feel how things are. And I can relax myself a lot faster now than I used to be able to. And this is a training thing. Learning how to breathe properly while stretching something is a really valuable tool.
Mm. Yeah, you definitely got to get into the mind of an athlete, right? And get into their sport and be like, listen, man, like I know you're pushing for X, Y, and Z, but end of the day, like, do you want to play for one more season or do you want to play for five?
Yeah.
Especially if
Now,
they're a professional athlete, right? That's how they
yeah.
look after their family. That's how they're putting food on the table.
No, and that was one of the best things that one of the best physios I ever had over the years. He always knew you wouldn't rest. If he told you to rest, you wouldn't. He knew that, and he would have said, "Look, I know you're not going to rest, but take it easy. Maybe only do 50% of your weights, or whatever, just for a week to let this calm down a bit, okay?" And you'd be like, "Right, fair enough." But if he ever did say to you, "You need complete rest," you did listen. You were like,
Yeah.
"Right, okay," because I you never normally say that. So yeah, maybe all right, I will. So it's just having that relationship. If you work
Mm.
closely with someone, you want to have a good relationship.
Being personable as well, right? Just
Hmm.
understanding people. I think that's a really strong tool to be able to use. Like most of the time there is this disconnect, right? It's just like, no, I said do this, so you have to fucking do this. It's like people aren't gonna do it, man.
Yeah.
You gotta take your head out of the sand sometimes. Like people are they're just gonna do what they're gonna do anyway, because we'd be the same. And I know me playing sport growing up, I was awful. It's like, Alex, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I'm training double that now because just to prove you wrong that I can keep training. Just the
Yep.
mind of like an athlete is a very extreme thing.
Yeah. But it's why they get to where they get to as
It
well.
is.
So it's
Yeah,
uh
we
it's a
can.
necessary evil.
Yeah, it is indeed. It is indeed. I got three questions.
Hmm.
What's the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
Ooh, life advice. I don't know. You probably don't know everything. That's a good one.
Mm,
Always assume you have something else to learn. No matter how confident you are with something, always be looking for another little thing. You can always improve on something in some way.
mm. The more I know is the more I know nothing, right?
Mm. And that one kind of came over the first time I ever went to gymnastics. And I was saying to them, like, why can I not do this? Because I can kind of do this and, I can do one rep of this and blah, 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 blah. And they were just like, you're not strong enough. I
Mm.
was like, what do you mean? I am strong. And they're like, you're not. And to them, it was like, why you even bothering trying? You need to go back and do this stuff. So that was a real realization for me.
Mm.
Don't waste the time with the things you can kind of do. Build the foundation and do it properly.
I mean, that's one of the beauties of our thing of fitness, right?
Hmm.
There's so many ways that we can skin this cat. There's
Yeah.
so many different things. And once we move one thing forward, sometimes this one comes back and we've got to like try and balance it out again. And it's
Yep.
just this ever going journey. And I personally find it really addictive. And it's like, oh, okay, I got pretty good for me at this. And then this has gone absolutely AWOL. And I'm like, oh crap, I gotta fucking pull this up. And then this has kind of come back down again. And it's like, how do we balance it all? And who can we learn from, right? Old USSR Soviet training systems, or this new thing, or it's just like, yeah, let's give it a go, because
Hmm.
it's all in the outcome at the end of the day. Like we don't know until we've actually done it.
Yep.
What's the worst piece of life advice you ever received?
Worst piece. I don't know because it's all context, really. Don't even. It wouldn't have been advice, but it was just me believing that I could train like someone with 10 years of experience on me already, being able to train like them. That wasn't advice from anyone else. That was sort of like my view of like, well, I've got muscles, I can do that, and just completely disregarding the 10 years of experience that someone else had before they were doing the thing that they were doing. I was trying to skip that stage. So that's the worst thing that I ever did to myself was that. It was like, I can train like a Olympic lifter, no problem. When did you start training? About 6 weeks ago. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah. Good luck. Yeah. What's three words you tell your younger self?
3 words to tell my younger self would be stop it now. Yeah, that would be because I am over enthusiastic, I think. Well, I think I know I am. My enthusiasm will always outweigh my abilities. So that would be me. I would go back to myself and say, stop it now. And then basically be like, chill out for a second, assess where you're at, and see where you go from there, rather than just going head down and, try and get on through. Take your time. And again, it just comes back to that first question as well. Like, build your foundation properly. Stop trying to
Mhm.
skip bits because you can kind of get away with doing stuff. So that would be, yeah, me. Too
That's young.
enthusiastic at the start.
As young lads, though, right?
Yep.
Just kind of head down, bull in a china shop, just kind of causing chaos, and you're just like, oh shit, I didn't really get anywhere constructively. Like,
Hmm.
yes, dude, like let's start to learn now. I
Yep.
I know I was exactly the same. Just smash yourself in the face with as much as you can. You're just like,
That
yeah, yeah, it's gonna get
that's
better.
that's literally how I learned how to handstand walk. I didn't do any of the drills, nothing on the wall, no tapping, no shoulder taps, no prerequisites, no practice at all. I went on my wrestling mat. I went one step, fall on my face. One step, fall on my face. Two steps, fall on my face. One step, fall on my face. That's how I learned how to do it. I did get there, but yeah,
I'm
took the
exactly
neck
the
a lot
same.
along the way.
I'm
Yeah,
exactly the same. I don't know if it's stubborn. I don't know
yeah,
if it's or if it's something else, but sometimes we just gotta smash ourselves in the face.
yeah,
I think we're probably the dumb ones, that's why.
yeah.
But anyway, brother, thank you so much. I appreciate your time so much.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Watching you do your thing is a pleasure, mate. It's really, really cool. Someone attacking the industry from a different spin. And I'm just like, great, how do we learn from this? How do we pull it into this melting pot and just give it a stir and see what soup comes out of it? And I think it's really freaking cool.
Yeah, make it fun. Like don't be doing something for the sake of doing it. Make it fun. If you're not enjoying it, what's the point? There is so many avenues you can change your training up to as well, and just make sure to look after yourself. Think about where you want to be in 10 years' time all of the time and train that way rather
Mhm.
than trying to squeeze out a couple of quick years. So always look after your body.
Yeah, agreed. Brother, thank you. If I make it over to the Northern Ireland, I'll let you know.
Definitely.
All right, man. Appreciate it. You have a good day, and I'll speak to you
And
soon.
you, buddy.
All
Cheers.
right, man. Bye, guys.
Bye.